pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So if we go ahead and call this meeting to order for the Board of Zoning Appeals here on June 9th. And our, can I get the roll call of the board members, please?
Mr. Butler.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Howe.
Here.
Ms. Rodebeck. Here.
Thank you. We have all four members of our board present. Obviously, we have a quorum, so we're good to go. Is there any old business that anybody needs to address? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on. Our first order of new business will be a variance application VA 20-006. Please, if you could bring. We're good to go. We have the staff report.
Yes, sir.
Variance 20-006.
Thank you, sir. The location of this one's at 93 Harrison Street. Current acreage is 0.23. It's zoned R20, medium density residential. The applicant's requesting approval of a variance from section 1279.03A1 to allow for a fence exceeding 48 inches in height to be erected in the front of the building setback line. So if you take a look, here's an area map of the property in question with it outlined in yellow. So a little bit of backstory. The applicant did receive the same variance in 2019 with a condition that they obtain all permits within 1 year of the date of approval. However, those permits were not applied for. The variance has since expired. However, there are no changes in this application since that previous approval. So currently there's a 2,712 square foot single family home that was a former church, 540 square foot detached garage, and the property has 3 frontages. Harrison Street to the north, an unnamed alley to the east, and another unnamed alley to the south. So the proposal is, according to code, fences shall not exceed 4 feet when in front of the front building setback line, and the building lines for all street frontages shall be the same as required for the front yard. The R20 front yard building setback is 50 feet, and any fence erected within 50 feet of the property line abutting the street shall be no taller than 4 feet. So the applicant's proposing a 6-foot tall fence along the south property line and a portion of the east property line ending at the driveway, and they're putting a notch in the corner to ensure sight visibility at the intersection at the alleys. The west fence section is permitted by code and does not require variance. So if you take a look, here's the proposal with the fence outlined in red. See they're coming around the west property line here, down to the south property line, leaving a notch in the corner for sight visibility at the intersection, and then up to the end of the driveway here. So in the narrative statement that was submitted by the applicant said that the reason for the fence is to allow for the yard to be used as a garden as well as for beekeeping. And according to section 506 of the city code, any beehive on lots less than 5 acres shall be placed within a 6-foot high fence. And the applicant also stated that it's for the protection of their children and animals, and that they believe the proposed location will provide ample distance for emergency vehicles and snowplows. As part of our review, staff would like to present the following comments. Staff believes there will be no issues with sight visibility at the intersection, and that the lot itself is only 65 feet wide, and with the 50 feet width required for the setback, placing a 6-foot fence anywhere on the lot except for the west property line would virtually be impossible without this variance. Staff has no other comments. The Public Service Department stated that if the proposed fence will be within the right-of-way at any point, a right-of-way permit will be required. And also, in addition to that, if the proposed fence is within the right-of-way, it must be a minimum distance of 6 feet from the edge of the pavement. We did not receive any other comments from any departments or agencies. Surrounding properties are all zoned R20 medium residential, and to the north, east, south, and west of this property, you have single-family homes. Here are your findings of fact, which are also there in your staff report, and supplementary conditions. So should the board choose to approve the applicant's request, following conditions may be considered. And just one being the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the City of Pataskala and the Licking County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Is there any existing fence now?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay,
From Google Maps, I didn't see anything.
gotcha. And this is exactly the same variance that we approved a year ago, or roughly.
That's correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for staff?
Nope.
Then is that, Ms. Hannah,
Yes,
would you like to testify?
there's nothing really to add, it's the same plan we had last year.
Okay,
There
you can
were-
just, maybe
yeah.
just
you
stop
don't
up,
have-
give your name, and, we'll swear you in, just, to make it official.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
I really don't have anything added to it. There were circumstances that happened to our property that are documented that were out of our control, and we weren't able to get an extension on this, so we're just trying to follow through with the same plan.
Gotcha. And then the fence is really, I guess the main purpose of it is because of the beekeeping?
Well, because we weren't able to get an extension, we've had to put up a temporary fence around our gardens because there are several raccoons and stray cats in our area. I do wanna have a beehive, and we do plan on having the 3 chickens that are allotted on our property sides, all of which we require a 6-foot fence to do.
Okay.
And there's really nowhere else on the property that we could do it because of the garage.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from Ms. Hannah? No? Okay, thank you, Ms. Hannah, if you want to, appreciate that. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. We reviewed this last year. Without any changes, I'd like to go ahead. Unless anybody has any more questions for staff, we'll go ahead and review the findings of fact, if that'd be all right. And the first finding of fact would be whether the property in question will yield a reasonable rate, or excuse me, a reasonable return, or if there can be a beneficial use of the property. Say
Yes.
Yes? Okay, yes would be the answer. B, whether there are unique physical circumstances or conditions that prohibit the property being developed in strict conformity with the zoning regulations such that a variance is necessary to enable the reasonable use of the property.
Yes.
Yes. Move forward, yes. C, whether the variance requested is substantial. I don't believe it's substantial. Everybody okay with no? No?
No.
Whether the variance is requested is substantial, and we're gonna answer no.
Yes,
Okay, correct.
this is correct, yeah.
Okay. D, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or the adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. And I don't believe it would. No?
No.
Okay. E, whether the variance if granted will substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent property. It
No.
wouldn't affect them in that regard. F, whether the variance if granted will be detrimental to the public welfare.
No.
No. G, whether the variance if granted would adversely affect the delivery of government services.
No.
No, it's not blocking any of the roads. H, whether the property owner purchased the subject property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. I'm gonna put no, I mean, I don't know, it's really applicable.
Right.
Whether the property's owner's predicament can be obviated through some other method, another method other than variance, and I'd have to say no on that. No. J, whether the variance if granted will represent the minimum variance that will afford relief and represent the least modification possible of the requirement at issue.
Yes.
Will, yes. And K, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance.
Yes.
Yes, we're okay with yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and the findings of fact. Is there any other questions for staff or anyone else?
Nope.
I do have one, I just wanted to make sure I'm clear, and I think I know the answer, but is there any neighbors, that responded?
No, not for this application.
Okay. So we've got the finding of facts, I think everything's pretty straightforward. If we could, I guess, move forward with a, motion. Would somebody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Read it for me.
Oh, yeah. I'm to approve variance of, from section 1279.03 A1 of tax code for variance application VA-20-006 with no conditions. Oh, wait,
Which is the
there
one
is.
condition.
Yes, there is. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the city of Pataskala and Licking County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. Sorry,
Thank
I took another page.
No problem, thank you. So we've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Moving forward, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Nope.
Nope.
And can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Rotoback?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Excellent. So your motion, your variance is passed,
Okay.
and you'll have 1 year to go ahead and execute it this time.
Well, I certainly hope Pickerington doesn't stick another bus in our ditch that makes us not be able to do it.
Oh,
so.
no.
Well, we are cheering for you in that regards too.
Yes, if there's anything next
Ms.
to
Hannah,
the road.
the board will get with you in the next few days and let you know the next steps.
Okay,
Thank you so much for coming in, and good luck with the property.
thank you.
It goes to- Yeah, my nose is starting to itch. If I sneeze, then I wanna make sure I'm not sneezing on anybody.
Can't do that. Not this day and
I'll be
age.
in COVID jail.
Where are we sitting? Right here.
Why don't you sit over there? Okay. We can go ahead and get the staff report for variance application number 20-007.
Just one moment, I think Lisa might have locked herself out.
Okay, can't have that.
I held the door for her. I want it to be now.
I think she went and got me a tissue.
All right, we ready?
Absolutely, thank you.
Like I said, this is VA 20-007. The location of this one's at 355 West Broad Street. Current zoning is M1 light manufacturing, and the applicant, the Pataskala YMCA, is requesting approval of 6 variances from the sections listed above for a ground sign with electronic message center. So if you take a look here at the area map, you can see the entire property outlined in yellow with Broad Street running to the north here and the railroad tracks to the south. So again, the property is 17.03 acres in size, home to the Pataskala YMCA. There's an access drive onto Broad Street, and the lot is a flag lot. As you can tell here, the length is larger than the width. little bit of zoning history. The YMCA is currently undergoing renovations. They had a small addition approved in 2018 and a new wall sign approved this year. So the proposal is to replace the existing ground sign with a new sign. That will be 16 feet 6 inches tall overall by 8 feet wide. And parts of the sign will be an 8 foot by 9 foot or 72 square foot white Lexan sign with logos, a 4 foot 5 inch by 7 foot 3 inch or 32 square feet full color LED electronic message center sign on a 3 by 8 sign base with white vinyl lettering showing the address. If you take a look, here's the location of the existing sign that's to be replaced, fronting on Broad Street. Here's a picture of the current sign. Can't zoom in, so I apologize. It might be a little hard to see.
Exactly.
And here is the proposed sign. So it's 16 feet 9 inches tall overall. You got the white Lexan sign face with the Y logo and 2 other logos down here. A 32 square foot electronic message center sign below that on the sign base with the business title and the address. So, pursuant to the code, freestanding ground signs shall not exceed 32 square feet in size and 10 feet in height. As proposed, the total sign area is 104 square feet with the 72 square foot sign and the 32 square foot electronic message center and a total height of 16 feet 6 inches. Electronic message center signs are in the code. They're limited to 24 square feet max. They may not change more than once in a 3-minute period, and they shall be static. They cannot flash, roll, scroll, or employ any other animation techniques during display or change, and are limited to a dark background with a single color employed at any time. In the narrative statement that was submitted by the applicant, they stated that the sign is needed to communicate the expanded YMCA activities, classes, events, and to people traveling along Route 16. It also provides visibility to location as the building itself is over 300 feet from Broad Street and is not very visible, and that the applicant believes it will not impair visibility of traffic or public safety. And they also stated that the larger sign height is because the sign will be located below the grade of East Broad Street. So as a part of our review, planning and zoning staff would like to offer the following comments. They are requesting 6 variances in total. The first one from 129509B2C to allow for the sign to exceed 32 square foot and 10 feet in height. So the total square footage is 104, which exceeds the maximum by 72 or 225%. And the 16 foot 9 inch, it says 6 up there, excuse me, it's actually 9 inches. Height exceeds the max by 5 foot or 6 foot, 6 inches or approximately 65%. And the second, to allow for the ground sign to exceed 10 feet in height. This requirement is actually mentioned twice in the code. Third, to allow for an electronic message center sign to exceed the maximum size of 24 square feet. So the EMC proposed is 32, which exceeds the max by 8 or 33.33%. And then 4, to allow for the EMC to change more than once in a 3-minute period. 5, to allow for an EMC that will flash, roll, scroll, or employ other motion and animation techniques. And finally 6, to allow for an EMC that will employ more than one color at any time. Also, pursuant to that section above, ground signs shall be at least 10 feet from the road right away. It appears compliant on the site plan. However, the actual distance should be indicated when they're applying for their sign permit. Since staff has no other concerns with the proposal, the city engineer stated that the applicant shall ensure that the sign is placed outside the city's right-of-way. We did not receive any other comments from any other departments or agencies. Surrounding properties, so to the north is zoned general business and R10 high-density residential. It's currently auto sales and storage and single-family homes. To the east is zoned residential manufactured homes, which is the trailer park there off Cedar Street. To the south is zoned agricultural, and it's the railroad tracks and some vacant land behind that. And to the west is M1 light manufacturing, which is more additional auto sales and storage and a lumber yard. Here are your findings of fact. Furthermore, section 1211.072 allows other factors to be considered, including comments from city staff when determining if an area variance is warranted. The following factors from that section are applicable to this variance, that one being 1211.072G to increase the maximum allowable height or area of signs on a lot, and the code suggests that this be not more than 25%. So So here are the supplementary conditions. The boilerplate applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the city of Pataskala and the Licking County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
First question I have is that the neighbor to the east, it said trailer park or manufactured home.
Yes.
Isn't that a vacant lot right now?
If it's more northeast, like if you're up by the access road to the east is a vacant lot, but if you're
Right.
towards the southern portion of the lot, that's where the
Okay,
trailer
there
park
is some residential on the south end of the lot.
Yeah, it's more southeast
Yeah. Yes.
from, I guess, the location of the sign now.
Okay. And the recommendation on the height is if we, to go over to use 25% as a benchmark?
The code recommends that height or area not be increased more than 25%. However, it is at the pleasure of the board.
Right, because this is 65%, correct?
Correct.
And 1, 2, 3, it looks like out of the 6 variances, 4 of them have to do with the electronic sign.
Yes, that is correct.
And one saying it would, wants to change more than once every 3 minutes, which I think I understand that. Do we know how it was gonna be used? Is it gonna be every minute or?
We didn't have any details of that in the application.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for staff?
So it says not 25%, not to exceed 25%, and we're at 65%?
Correct. It's a
Yes.
benchmark. I mean, with the pleasure of the board, we can go over that 25. It's just a benchmark.
Right, right, I just trying to,
But yes,
Put it in
it's
perspective.
25%, and of course, your variance is calling for a 65% variance.
right,
However, the other part of the variance is much larger. There's a 225%.
Right,
variance on
right.
the side.
have we had any neighbors, any questions from the letter that was sent out?
I haven't received any calls or letters. However, I believe there is someone here to observe and maybe ask questions, but
Okay.
we will see.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I assume that you are,
I am
With
Roger
this
Kessler,
variance.
Kessler Sign Company, and this is Ed Bourne. He's the CEO of the Y here in Pataskala,
You made me do
Newark, and Muskegon County.
okay, so you're Mr. Kessler?
Yes,
Okay, and the other gentleman is,
Ed Boren.
okay, and you are just acting as a tripod?
Yeah, good enough. Call me Vanna, whatever.
Okay, because the testimony then will be just Mr. Kessler, if you could turn to, Lisa?
he might want to testify as well. So-
okay, well, we'll do one at a time.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And could you get your name and address for the,
Yeah, Roger Kessler, 170 Pinehurst Drive, Granville.
and I guess for sake, why don't we have Mr.
Boren,
Boren,
close enough.
okay? If you could,
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
and your name and address, Mr. Boren.
Oh, Edward Boren. 10532. Oh, go to the YMCA address.
Sure.
355 West Broad Street, West, Lincoln County, Family YMCA.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Kessler.
Okay, we have a lot of variances here.
Yes.
So we're gonna make everyone's life a little easier. I've been messing with this for several months. And when we applied originally, things got shut down a little bit. So, that said, I've had second thought. I know that's surprising, but I did. So I think what we want to do is, we want to reduce a lot of these variances. And the overall height being 13 feet, 1 inch.
So we have 16 foot,
Yeah.
6 inches on your application.
Right.
And now you're reducing it down.
Reducing it down to 13 feet, 1 inch. Now, in doing that, in addition to that, the sign sits below the grade of the road. And per your code, the grade of the road is what you measure from. So we're, without getting the scope out there, between 2 and 3 feet below the grade. I think most of you guys would agree with that. Here's the picture, and you can kind of see.
It is.
So,
So you think you're within variance?
I think we are really close. Well, let's just, for practical purposes,
We're gonna
call it a
13
foot and a
feet.
half out of compliance. I think we can all live with that, based on the 25. Also, the square footage is reduced down to, oh boy, I'm not doing math there. So 3 and 5. The EMC is 3 foot 5 inches by 6 foot. So we're gonna be about 23 square feet. And the YMCA logo, and the other 2 tenants, is about 43 square feet. And I'm not sure if you count this stuff to where you have to have the address and all that in there.
No, we don't count the address.
Okay. So the Licking County Family YMCA Western Branch has to be on it for our charter or whatever. So we have reduced, so square footage of the message center is within code. The overall height is a foot and a half out of code. And the square footage is, you have the math on that, 62 square feet. So we're still out of code with that. But we've reduced it down a lot. And I believe this is the minimum we need to be able to communicate to everyone in the community, up and down the roads, the happenings of what's going on in the water. We have 2 other tenants, and I'm gonna let Ed talk about those people and what exactly they do.
First off, thank you, that'll reduce my cost in signing this. Of course, if you're familiar, it's COTC is a partnership, as well as Licking County Aging, and once that program starts, once we get back on track, they'll play an important role in this community as well. Also, I was gonna add is that community, the electronic signage, as we've done it at the Newark branch, we use that for community as well. So we get messages out for other nonprofits and other locals that are in need, as long as we've got it in timing and whatnot, as far as, and working with the city and Lamar and all that. So we're more than willing to be a partner, as we've always have, so, and that's the purpose.
Are you with the sign company too?
Pardon me?
No,
No,
he's
I'm the CEO of the YMCA,
Gotcha, okay,
and Dana Moore is our branch director here.
okay, gotcha.
And in addition to that, we will comply with the 3-minute hold time. And we will have no flashing, no scrolling.
We don't do anything to distract.
No Las
Yeah.
Vegas here.
I was gonna add, we did have an issue that for non-compliance, with the ice cream store that's down on Broad, across, Caesar's area. Can't remember.
Okay.
Circle K.
Yes.
Circle K.
Taylor
Oh,
Road.
down the other way, okay,
Yeah.
yes, okay,
Yeah, so I know we are trying to enforce that.
okay. Go back to your electric messaging sign, okay,
Yes.
so it's not gonna be less than 3 minutes. What is it? Is it picture, or is it,
Well,
just,
they'll have both
text?
text and maybe a picture of Ed, but probably not.
Well, I mean,
That will definitely cause wreck.
if I'm correct on this, the zoning is that it's supposed to be one color and one color,
We're in the 21st century. We're
understand, so
going
if you could paint a picture in our mind, what it would be, what
It
you're
would
proposing.
be, if you put a colored picture on your screen up here, your TV screen, it would look like that,
Okay,
okay? And it acts much like a color TV, except it doesn't change. So when you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you got that going on, it would be stationary.
Gotcha.
And not,
So it'll be just one message, picture, whatever,
Yes, sir.
and it would be on static for at least 3 minutes?
And the whole idea of that is, you know, people are, I mean, marketing is people come by, you don't want it flash because they'll lose it. So the idea is let them see it when it comes, and so that, I mean, I think that's a standard.
right, yes, and that works out great. Should be, the state, because this is a state highway, they require 8-second hold time, for that off-premise, device. So if you're 3 minutes, we're certainly well within
Right,
their issues.
right.
And you might wanna look at some point in time saying, well, maybe 10 seconds, 20.
So in this variance, I think it said, if I'm reading it right, it was saying, to allow for an EMC that will flash, roll, scroll, or employ other motion
No,
or
will not.
animation. So we're not doing any motion or animation.
No.
Although I
Well,
wanted the
animation
dancing
would.
hot dogs, but I didn't think
What's
that's.
that?
I want the dancing hot dogs on the thing, but.
Okay, so, I mean, but the variance that we have in front of us, is that's what it's asking
Right,
for.
so 4, 5, and 6 would be,
No,
have to
wait, I'm
go
sorry, that
with
was
them.
misunderstood.
would be
We-
part of the motion.
We knew that you couldn't do that, so we
Okay.
wouldn't ask.
So 5 would definitely be gone, 6 would still be there, because it would be a picture, could be a picture,
Yes.
and that would be full color.
Right.
So it would be more than one color.
Okay,
we'd still
so
have to have
6
that.
does stay.
To allow EMC and change, and 4 would be taken off because you're now within the 3-minute rule, so that's not a problem. So, I guess my concern now is we've got a variance with very specific measurements, and now they're asking for a variance with different
And if
measurements, so it's not really the
I
same
could
thing.
say something with, when the application's submitted, there aren't any revisions after the fact, because what's submitted is what goes out for review, it's
Right.
what gets sent to the board, and, for example, if someone were to bring a revised copy to the hearing without staff having prior knowledge of that or seeing it, as far as if it's compliant with code or if it's not what needs a variance, I don't know.
Would it be something that we could table and
Yes.
or and revise it? And would that be okay
In
to
the
get it to
past-
stay?
In the
Ahead?
past, we've just put it into the motion.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
different than what
we've
Jack said.
amended these before.
Yeah.
I've been here a zillion times. So,
I would be here only one, two, but this,
so that's an exact drawing of what we're talking about.
We could even make it as a condition, right?
Mhm.
Do you think, Jack?
I'm hesitant because they're asking for specific variance from the height and the square footage allowed. I heard a little bit of the testimony as I was trying to flip through the code section to figure out whether or not what they were saying was compliant or what they needed a variance from, but,
Mhm.
I mean, for example, the height, was it 13 feet, 1 inch,
13 feet, 1.5.
1.5? So that would be a variance of
Yeah,
3 feet,
but
1 inch and a half.
That's from existing grade, not the road grade.
It's the overall height of the sign
Right.
that's considered.
I think your code says you measure it from the road grade. Pretty sure that's what it says.
I'd like to be clear on it.
But, you know, if it's gonna be easier, we can put this on the table and let him have an opportunity to, cause I'm putting him kind of but I only made the decision last night, so.
That's fine.
You only
Yeah,
need-
well,
So,
You want-
yeah.
and I'm fine with tabling, I think, we're not in some big
This is a
hurry.
crisis, you know, it's not,
So-
it doesn't have to be done tomorrow, we just
Okay.
wanna get it in front so
Yeah.
that we can get ahead.
What we really wanna do is get something approved and then go out and raise the money. So if you guys wanna contribute.
Hey, that's my job. If you don't wanna contribute,
Okay, thank you. If you want to go ahead and have a seat, then we'll
Yes, sir.
kind of figure out our next move. In the meantime, Ms. Parkinson, did you want to testify at all?
Can I talk?
Yes, but I'm going to have you come up and then get sworn in.
the testimony about to give us the truth, the whole
Yes.
truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you
Yes,
God.
thank you.
And can I have your name and address for the record?
I'm Pamela Parkinson, and, trying to think. I'll put 204 South Township Road, Pataska,
Okay.
for address. I have the property right in front of them. So I'm here because I'm hoping that whatever you make a decision on them will affect everybody else in the community, of what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I'm wanting to know, and of course I'm sure you are too, is how many lines, is it something that we have to do a lot of reading to as we're driving down the road? You know, I don't know how much wordage is gonna be on that sign for that reason. Other than that, I think it's up to you guys and what you wanna pass.
You are that vacant lot next to it?
I'm the vacant lot in front of them. They come in behind me. And I have the 6 acres there beside Stewart's and beside, used to be Sally Stove's.
Is it the one that borders Broad Street, 16?
I am on Broad Street.
Right next to Stuart Otter's there, and then this is.
Here's the big,
This one here.
here's the big map. You can see it. Yeah, this lot and this lot.
Okay. All right. Totally different side, I thought. Okay.
If they have the right kind of money, they can buy me out and we could worry about the signage later.
One's asking for money, and you're both asking for money.
But anyhow,
What-
that's one of the concerns I have. It's not, you know, I think it's up to you guys on what you decide on the signage. I cannot do that. But I didn't know whether how much writing there's gonna be on it to where it will stop people from, you know, trying to read a lot as they're trying to drive down the road.
Did you have an opportunity to see any of these pictures or markups?
I'm not
or
sure
notes?
about the one that's moving, the one that's, I didn't see that one.
So your safety is what you're,
Well,
Worry
yeah,
about.
I'm concerned about safety and how many lines. I mean, you know, is it something that you're gonna have to read something like this when you're driving down the road?
yeah, normally they're not.
10 words or less.
10
Okay.
words or,
She's gonna address us, just to
Yeah,
keep it,
yeah.
keep the voices going the right way.
okay. So 10, you say 10 words or less is what they're saying?
That's what they're saying. They're saying
And it's
it
one-
will be a still sign, so it's virtually still for several
Yeah,
minutes.
3, whatever.
At least 3, maybe more. I mean, certainly long enough to get drive by. And it, I guess for the sake of it, take at least look at what this is looking like. If you haven't seen it, it's that orange section in the middle.
Okay, the orange section has the YMCA and then it has, we are more than just a gym. That's what's gonna,
That's just for this rendering, but it could be a picture of people working out or walking
Yeah.
around the track or
Could
yoga.
be- yeah,
but it's
you're-
gonna be just 3 lines all the time?
No, it could be 2 lines, it could be 1 line, it could be just a picture. But it's not very big, it's only like 3 by 6, so
Yeah.
Well,
you're not
then
gonna be able
I
to.
mean, you're
look
limited
into it.
space and I think, and it's just my opinion, you know, the more things that are on there, the less it's gonna be read. You know, they want something that's gonna grab,
Well-
plant a seed, like yoga.
Well, if I decide to, you know, get something online,
Mhm.
is all this riding down the road gonna be, you know, am I gonna be able to have something similar eventually? You know
Well,
what I'm saying?
Again, do you know what you're doing with your land?
Well, not totally yet, but
Okay.
I'm just saying, I have 6 acres, I have 260-foot frontage. So that
Well-
means I could put a lot more signs.
Again, you'd have to get
Well,
a set
yeah.
of the zoning laws to know what it is, and if
Yeah.
you wanted to exceed them,
Yeah,
it would be the same process. We take a look at it
right.
and
I
see what makes
understand
sense.
that. But I just was,
Yeah, certainly, we can't rule on
No,
that
no.
today.
no,
Yeah.
I understand that,
Yeah,
but I'm just saying that this will affect everybody else too.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah, when
Yeah,
we
we take that
were
in
reviewing
consideration.
this, I mean, I literally drove down and looked at other signs. You know, I mean, you have to look at the whole
And that's
community.
why I didn't know how much writing they were gonna put on here.
Right. And I think that, you know, we're not giving a variance on the amount of writing, we're basically giving a variance on
I know,
the
on the side.
space. Yeah.
square footage.
Plus, you know, you have, well, and you're only doing 2 colors, right?
No, that could be a full picture.
Yeah,
So it could be multicolored.
Yeah, just like a
Okay.
snapshot on your phone, you know, a picture of
Okay,
something.
that's what Cause I thought at first we were talking that it would be only 2 colors.
That's what they're trying to get the variance away from. Yes,
Okay, so now we're going to multicolor.
yes,
Okay,
on that one section.
okay,
Make sense?
yep.
Is there any other thing you wanna say about that, or? Okay. All right, Jack, we're in a situation now where we've got a variance that really is not.
Yes.
I mean, what we're going to approve is not what they're trying to put in.
And that was what I wanted to comment on with not having seen what the revisions are. Like I said, I can't really tell you whether or not it'd be within code, or if it's not in code, by how much.
Right.
I guess personally I'd be more comfortable with tabling it. Of course, it's the decision of the board.
I think I would be more comfortable in tabling it, just to put it on. I mean, a change at the last minute without you knowing about it, I mean, it kind of just makes mute your staff report, really. And I think I'd feel more comfortable if you had it at a time and went through it. Is there any?
And it could be the board's request for additional information in regards to the EMC sign when they come back with revised plans for the next hearing. If it's the pleasure of the board to maybe provide some more information on how that's going to work.
Yeah, well, definitely I'd like to see the 3 or 4 items scrapped for this, because we're not asking for a variance on that anymore. The 3-minute and
Yeah, we'd be
rolling,
more than happy
flashing,
to do it.
scroll, all that. I mean, they've said it's not gonna be that, so I'd rather not even have that on the variance. Cause that would be a concern of mine if there's moving letters you're trying to read as you're driving. Any other, well, I would, if I could, request, just more information, exactly what they're, that would be on that, and just a little more
Yeah.
specificity, if you
We
would.
can do that.
Because what we have here is very generic, on the variance.
I understand. We will rewrite what
Okay.
we're requesting, so he understands.
So Jack, are you comfortable with that then? We'll go ahead, if we decide to go ahead and table it, then you can, obviously bring it up next month, I guess.
Yeah, that would work great.
Is anybody else have a concern or comment on that? It's kind of weird, it's spinning around.
That's fine, yeah.
All right, if that's the case then, I think we're in a position, I don't have to do findings of fact at this time. Why don't we go ahead and if I can get a motion to table this until next meeting?
I'll move to table for the next meeting.
Okay, so we've got a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
And we got a second. Any other discussion? No, would there be no discussion? We can have a roll.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac?
Then we have gone ahead and approved to table it until next time. If we could just get the final, if you will.
Date, is it the 14th?
Second Tuesday, what is the date of the next meeting?
I'll be able to pull that up in just a second. Find my calendar on my phone.
I have the 14th, on this Tuesday.
Yes, July 14th.
Would that date work for you? You want me to extend it farther? Okay, so July 14th, we'll take it up again and hopefully get the final on that. Okay? That being said, thank you. If I'm gonna have to throw you out, I'm afraid, because we got limited number of people we can let in here. Yeah. And until next week.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
your time.
Jack, I'll get some more information, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah,
I just wanted,
yeah,
I looked at it. and
No,
it's gonna be pretty close to
I feel better.
okay.
that sign to be decent.
Okay.
It's cleaner.
Yeah, we'll send you a decision letter tomorrow with the table in, but if you just wanna email me any,
I'll
information
rewrite
for
it,
changes.
the whole thing.
okay,
Okay, thanks a lot.
thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks, guy, appreciate it.
Jack did that last time. Thank you. I know, right?
Thanks.
Just have a seat, please.
Just go ahead. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is variance application VA-20-008. The applicant is Arleana Pringle, and if we could go ahead and have staff report.
Of course. Location of this one's at 157 Cedar Street. It's currently zoned R7, Village Single Family Residential. And much like VA 2006, this applicant's requesting approval of a variance from section 1279.03A1 to allow for the construction of a fence exceeding 48 inches in the front yard setback. So take a look here, it's the area map of the property. It's outlined in yellow here. Front's on 3 right-of-ways. You got Cedar Street to the north here, Spring Street to the west, and Railroad Street to the south. So currently the 0.3 acre property, 3.4 acre property is occupied by a single family home and a detached garage with access via a gravel driveway on Spring Street, and there is an existing fence between the home and the garage. Again, it's adjacent to 3 public right-of-ways. So per the code, fences shall not exceed 4 feet when in front of the front building setback line, and the building lines for all street frontages shall be the same as required for the front yard. In the R7 zoning district, the front yard building setbacks are 25 feet, meaning that any fence erected within 25 feet of the property line abutting a street right-of-way shall be no taller than 4 feet. So the proposal is to install a 6-foot high fence along the west property line bordering Spring Street, down to the south property line bordering Railroad Street, while leaving a notch in the southwest corner for site visibility at the intersection of Spring and Railroad. They already did receive a permit to construct a 6-foot fence on the east property line between the neighbor. They did not require a variance for that, and the existing fence is to be removed. So again, here's the proposal. Constructing a 6-foot fence along Spring Street, leaving a notch for visibility at the intersection, and then along Railroad Street, and then the 6-foot fence in the east property line has already been constructed. So in the narrative statement supplied by the applicant, they stated that the fence will be 11.5 feet from Railroad Street and 21 feet from Spring Street. The purpose is for increased privacy and enjoyment of their yard. With current requirements, the applicant believes that they would lose much of the enjoyment of their yard, and they did not believe the request is substantial or detrimental to surrounding properties. So as part of our review, planning and zoning staff would like to offer the following comments. The applicant discussed with staff prior to submitting this request, and they included that notch in the corner, which does comply with the site visibility requirements of the code. And pursuant to 1279.03A4, no fence or wall shall be erected within 3 feet of the right-of-way. According to the narrative, the proposed fence will comply with this. However, just indicate those distances that will be from the road on the plans when submitting for the fence permit. And we do not have any comments or concerns with the proposal. We did not receive any other comments from other departments or agencies. Surrounding properties to the north, east, south, and west are all zoned R7 Village Single Family Residential, and they are all single family homes, except to the south you have the railroad tracks. Here are your findings of fact. They're also available there in your staff report. And supplementary conditions, the boilerplate applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the city of Pataskala and the Licking County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
You mentioned on there that you wanted those specific measurements, that 3-foot setback, and on the application for the permit.
Yeah, in the narrative statement, I believe she said it was going to be 11.5 feet from Railroad Street and 21 feet from Spring Street, just when submitting for the fence permit, just to make sure to actually mark those distances down on the plan.
Now, that would be reviewed by that, when they submit that permit, we won't have to worry about putting that as a condition.
That's correct.
Okay. The other thing I was just kind of unsure of was that 25-foot setback, if you could explain that.
So, the way the fence code is worded is that anytime you're in front of the front building setback, you can only be 4 feet in height. And the front building setback is dependent on the zoning district that you're in. In R7, it's 25 feet. But anytime you abut a street right-of-way, you have that front yard setback, it doesn't matter if it's the side or rear yard of the home, anytime you're abutting a street right-of-way, you have to meet the front building setback. So it'd be 25 feet from wherever you abut a street is how far back you have to go before you can build a 6-foot fence.
Okay. And in this case, that would cut off half their lot, right?
Pretty much.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for staff? Okay, do we have, Ms. Pringle, would you like to testify? You get to go ahead and step up over to this podium,
TV news.
and we'll swear you in. If you could, just listen to me.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
And can I have your name and address for the record?
Arliana Pringle, 157 Cedar Street, Tassville.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything you wanted to testify that maybe clarify from what the staff has already told us?
No, I think you pretty much covered it.
Okay, and so you're basically just wanting to put a 6-foot perimeter fence
Yes.
with the one notch.
Mm-hmm.
On there, it said that some fence was gonna be removed. What fence is that?
We had a picket fence that was just mostly for the dogs. In the aerial view map, it should still be there, and on that map too, where you just outlined in the blue, that's where it is, and that's now gone. We took that out and we put up a 6-foot fence along, the property line between us and
So you have it on the east side and on the north side already in place?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have any questions for Ms. Pringle?
Nope.
That was painless, right?
Yeah.
You can go ahead and have a seat then, thank you. That being said, is there any other questions for staff or comments that you'd like to make?
Are there other, homes in the area that follow the same type of fencing?
You know, and I drove that area.
I did not look specifically, but there are a lot of homes in the area that have multiple street frontages.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were to want to build a 6-foot fence, they'd have to follow the same rules or otherwise get a variance.
Okay.
I can't think of the,
I saw.
as long as
I
I've been
don't-
here, I know we haven't done one on Cedar Street
Right.
for this kind of
Google Map
variance.
shows some homes that do have the 6-foot fence. I just didn't know if they were in the right of way or not. So I was just seeing if it was a unique situation or,
They may have just been there for so long they got grandfathered in.
right. But it's not an uncommon, but now we have a new zoning,
Mhm.
so.
Okay. Any other questions? That being said, I'll go ahead and read the findings of fact. The right one here, I do, okay. Whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or if there can be a beneficial use of the property, and I think that would be yes.
Yes.
Okay. B, whether there are unique physical circumstances or conditions that prohibit the property from being developed in strict conformity with the zoning regulations such that a variance is necessary to enable a reasonable use of the property. Just seems like there's roads on one of it, and I mean, there's roads on all sides, basically.
Yeah.
And so I don't see this, I mean, that would make it unique physical situation where we would be consistent with the size of the fence, I think. So my answer would be yes on this. Okay, C, whether the variance requested is substantial. I don't feel it is.
I don't know.
No. D, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or the adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance. And no, I don't think it would be a problem that way. E, whether the variance if granted will substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent property. And it wouldn't affect them, I believe, so that'd be no. F, whether the variance if granted will be detrimental to the public welfare.
No.
No. G, whether the variance if granted would adversely affect the delivery of government services.
No.
It's not preventing that. H, whether the property owner purchased the subject property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. Again, my guess is no on that. I gotta remember to ask that. I, whether the property owner's predicament can be obviated through some other method than variance. And if they want that privacy, I would say no on that.
No.
No would be the answer, okay. J, whether the variance if granted will represent the minimum variance that will afford relief and represent the least modification possible of the requirement at issue.
I'd say yes.
Yes. Okay. And K, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance.
Yes.
I think that it would
Yes.
do that. So our findings of facts are yes for A, B, J, and K, and then C, D, E, F, G, H, I would all be no.
Correct.
Is there any other comments or questions from the board?
No.
Hearing none, and can we roll? What's that?
We need to vote.
We need a motion, don't we?
Yeah.
I move to.
No vote yet.
I move to approve variance from section 1279.03 A1 of Pasco Code for variance application VA 20-008 with the supplementary condition the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the city of Pataskala and Licking County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval.
Thank you. We got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Now, any other further discussion?
No.
No discussion? Now can we do a roll?
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Ms. Rotovek,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Butler.
Yes.
We have a yes. The motion passes. The variance is passed. You will have 1 year to get your permits on that, and the staff will get in touch with you in the next few days to let you know the next steps. Okay? Thank you so much for coming in, and good luck with the property. Now, this helps that.
A long hot day.
Another one tomorrow.
My son calling. He must be done with that.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a conditional use application, CU-20-005, John Parsons, doing business as Parsons Auto. If we could have Steffi, please.
Of course. Location of this one's at 299 West Broad Street. Acreage is 0.93. It's currently zoned GB General Business, and the applicant's requesting approval of the conditional use pursuant to section 1249.04 Part 5. Pataskala Code to allow for the property to be used as an automotive repair shop. Take a look. Here's the area map of the property outlined in yellow. You can see East Broad Street to the north, and you also have Linda Avenue to the south bordering the property. So again, it's 0.98 acres. There's currently a 1,850 square foot building with 6,000 square feet of parking area, main access onto Broad Street with a secondary gravel drive running to the south onto Linda Avenue. It's currently the proposal is to use the property as a general automotive repair, which is a conditional use in the GB General Business District. On the site, there's currently a 6-foot fence on the east property line. The applicant's proposing to include 11 parking spaces with 1 handicap space. It's also proposing to install bushes placed 5 feet apart with 1 tree per 30 feet along East Broad Street and part of the west property line where it borders the business to the west. In the narrative statement, the applicant stated that all operations are going to be conducted within the structure. There will be no open storage of wrecked vehicles or parts, and the waste of the site will be disposed per state, local, and EPA guidelines, and the property will be kept in aesthetically pleasing condition. A little bit of zoning history behind this. So It's been an automotive repair shop for a number of years. The original conditional use was approved in 2014 with several conditions. However, those conditions weren't met by the occupant at the time. In addition, there were several zoning violations ongoing with it, so the board in 2015 actually revoked that conditional use. And BZA denied an additional request to reinstate that later that year. A new occupant, which was Fellowship Automotive, got a conditional use approved in 2016 with conditions. However, several of those conditions rather are unmet or currently unmet because they've kind of deteriorated and now ownership is transferred to the applicant. So if you look here is the proposed site plan. You can see along the frontage of East Broad Street along the west property line where it borders the business. To the west, there's bushes placed 5 feet apart with 1 tree per 30 feet. And also right here on the east side, there's a 6-foot fence running along the east property line here, a small dumpster enclosure here, and you have 11 parking spaces along the back and west side with 1 handicap parking space up here on the front. So as part of our review, planning and zoning staff would like to offer the following comments. The future land use map designates this as mixed use, which means the proposed use is in line with the comprehensive plan of 2006. There were several conditions from 2017's approval that remain unmet or need repaired. First one being L2 landscaping on the frontage of Broad Street. However, the applicant did state in their site plan that they're going to be putting bushes and a tree for every one tree for every 30 feet, so that would suffice that. 2, the east fence shall be repaired and maintained per code. Here's the current conditions of the fence. It's leaning over a little bit and is starting to chip some paint. The third one, the dumpster shall be enclosed per code. So the fence that originally enclosed that dumpster appears to have fallen in on itself, and that'll need to be repaired and that dumpster stored within it. And 4, the L2 along the west property line. Again, the applicant did state they're going to put bushes every 5 feet and 1 tree per 30 feet. Do have some photos of the site. Looks like the bushes are installed, but the trees are still required. Here's a look at the dumpster enclosure. You can see the fence is kind of starting to fall in there. And then at the front, you've got 1 tree, and then the bushes along the property line. However, still need to have 1 tree for every 30 feet along the west property line. Oh, there's a better picture of the dumpster enclosure. So, also, all ADA spaces shall have designated signs per code. Staff feels it appropriate to include a condition that all vehicles parked on the site must be within designated spaces. However, staff doesn't have any other concerns with the proposal. We did not receive any other comments from any other departments or agencies. For surrounding properties to the north of the zone GB general business, however, it's currently vacant. To the east is zone R10 high density residential, which is a mix of single family homes and 2 family homes. To the south, R10 high density residential, which is 2 family homes, and to the west is GB general business, which is auto sales and storage and a medical office. So here are your findings of fact for conditional uses. They're also printed there in your staff report. Furthermore, section 1215.05 allows other factors to be considered when determining if a conditional use is appropriate. In staff's opinion, the following factors from section 1215.05 may be applicable. That being 1215.05A7, all permitted installations shall be kept in a neat and orderly condition so as to prevent injury to any single property individual or the community in general. So, should the board choose to approve the applicant's request, following conditions may be considered. 1, the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the City of Pataska and the Lincoln County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. 2, L2 landscaping shall be installed along the front of the property adjacent to Broad Street. 3, the fence along the east property line shall be repaired and maintained per the requirements of the code. 4, the dumpster shall be enclosed per the requirements of the Pataska Code. 5, L2 landscaping shall be required along the western property line where it's abutting 325 Broad Street. And any conditions from section 1215.05 that the board feels are appropriate. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
So this is basically the 3rd ownership since it was converted into auto repair.
3rd occupant, I believe the first 2 occupants were leasing, but the applicant this time now owns the property. But yes, it's the 3rd conditional use for the same use on the property.
Okay. It's very well Anybody have any questions? Okay, do we have Mr. Parsons here?
Yep.
Would you like to testify? No, then, you could come up to the podium, and Lisa will swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And can I have your name and address for the record, please?
Address of the property, or my home.
Property probably.
Okay. John Parsons, 299 West Broad Street, Pasco.
Okay. And how long have you had the property now?
May? Yeah.
And were you aware of the conditional use when you?
No. I had, emailed Lisa, and at that point, there was a miscommunication, because I had asked in February about it, whether we had to do anything, and I was told no, but then I called in May after I purchased it, and had to do this. So,
Got it. You see the conditions that we would be considering. Is there any concern with those?
no, they're all, I have pictures, the trees have been planted, the fence has been painted and fixed, and the dumpster area. We had taken the dumpster area apart to pour concrete, so I went ahead and put it back together.
It's in, so it's back together now?
Yeah.
And it closes and it's not
The
falling over on the
dumpster's
dumpster
in the
anymore?
enclosure.
Okay. And landscaping, adding trees, I think
Yep.
you had bushes?
Planted trees.
Okay.
Wife did a good job about that.
So the dirt in them.
Okay. I know how that works. Okay. Is there any other questions for Mr. Parsons? It seems like, this property has had some, I guess, some history to it, so we
Yes,
hope
it
that
has.
it can have someone in there who will take a little better care of it and kind of spruce up the neighborhood, I guess.
Yes.
If
I don't
you
know
would.
if you've driven by it, but it's already a lot better.
Yeah, I do drive by it. Well, okay, if you wanna go ahead and have a seat at this
Okay.
point. I do know we have one neighbor here, and if you would like to testify?
No, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Okay, I want to give you the opportunity, if you did. Do we have any other questions, comments for, I think, as far as our motion, it's pretty well spelled out, except for number 6. And I think just adding that one section at the top where we say all permitted installations shall be kept in neat and orderly condition so as to prevent injury any single property, individual, or community in general, to put in for number 6, if you all think, I think that would be appropriate in this case. Do you?
Yeah, well, in the past, we've had more cars than parking spaces that are allotted. I don't know if there's anything that we should talk about.
What is the zoning, Jack, as far as parked cars?
I mentioned it in the staff report, but looking through it now, I believe that it forgot to be included in the conditions, but with that, we did recommend a condition that any vehicles parked on the lot shall be parked within a designated space. If you wanna add that as an additional condition, you can definitely do so.
I think that's something that would behoove the city of Pataskala and ensure that we have good communication
I
with
think
the
that,
new owner.
I think that's excellent. The other thing that might be, is there any consideration for length of time a car should stay on a property? That's something.
I feel as if enforcement of that would be difficult.
What we don't want is a car, and, put it in and, well,
Right.
I'll refurbish this car, and then you get busy and 3 years goes by.
Right, and this kind of came up last year when we had like a tow yard that tried to get a conditional use. Enforcement wise, for example, we get a report, car's been there for a while, and we have to go in and check receipts on when that car came in, and say, we gotta give them, as far as the enforcement process takes, we do, like a door hanger, which basically go in and saying, hey, this is in violation, courtesy letter, And then finally, the violation letter stating that you're in violation of the code. If you don't do anything about it, you're gonna get a mayor's summons. By the time we get to that point, they could have just moved the car, and then we start all over again, car comes back.
We do have, it is written into the code then, on how many days.
No,
Oh, it's not?
no, it's
Okay.
not. I believe trying to enforce that
Yeah, I
might
agree,
be very difficult.
right.
Okay.
But it might be able to be tied into having the property appearance kept up. If a vehicle's there for a very long time and it's deteriorating, I think that might be covered under that additional condition. That's from section 1215.05.
All permitted shall be kept in a neat and orderly condition, so it's pretty,
Yeah,
pretty
and
broad.
The previous conditional uses were all withdrawn for reasons like the fencing and the what were the reasoning?
the original one in 2014 was withdrawn because they had several conditions, being they had to install a fence, some additional landscaping in the rear and along the frontage, some other property appearance things that were never done. There were also several code violations on the property as far as automotive parts strewn about and wrecked cars and stuff like that.
And those would be an issue whether or not
Correct.
we approve all these conditions.
Correct.
I guess clearly the city will withdraw conditional use. I'm just wondering how absolutely necessary it would even be to include this condition of keeping it in a neat and orderly condition based on the conditions there already. You know, they have to have the landscaping, they have to make sure the fence is maintained. If there's code violations, it's gonna get,
Right.
they're gonna get dinged for
Some
that
kind of
anyway.
notification on that, yeah. I don't disagree.
I just think that's making
Kind of
it,
common sense.
making it a little too strict, I guess. I don't know.
Any other thoughts?
Well, if they're not mowing the lawn, is there a way, I mean, is that what that's getting after?
Yeah, that would fall under the property maintenance code.
Okay, and the parts, you know, auto parts, like an engine just laying around, it's not a car, so it doesn't need to be in a parking spot, right? But if you had an engine sitting out on the grass or something silly, mufflers, you know,
Yeah,
so is that
Trying
where it's
to-
trying to keep the neat and orderly fashion?
I believe so. The applicant did state that they would be under in the general business code, I believe, for automotive repair. It states that conditional uses for automotive repair, per vehicle or parts must be stored inside while they're being worked on. I might be able to pull up the language exactly for
I'm
you
just
real
wondering
quick.
if we need to keep it because of that, or if it's something that we can get rid of.
So for conditionally permitted uses in the GB General Business District, motor vehicle garage for the repair and servicing of vehicles, provided all operations are conducted within a fully enclosed building and there is no open storage of wrecked vehicles, dismantled parts, or parts visible beyond the premises.
Okay, so that's taken care of
So
in there.
we don't need to have
We
this
don't.
split.
Yeah.
That's a good point. All right. That makes sense to me, so we can drop that 12-1505A7. Still at number 6 then, we would add all vehicles on property to be parked in designated parking areas. We okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I just want to say, okay. And I'll go ahead and I'll read this motion. We're ready? I move to
We need to do
approve.
the findings of fact for the conditional use.
Thank you. Good. The heat's still getting to me.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Thank you so much. Okay, findings of facts for conditional use. Number 1 is in fact a conditional use as established under the provisions of Title III of the Planning and Zoning Code for the specific zoning district of the parcels listed on the application.
Yes.
That is a yes. 2, will be harmonious with and in accordance with the general objectives or with any specific objective of the city comprehensive plan and or this code, and that was a yes, that was in the staff report.
Yes.
3, will be designed, constructed, operated, maintained so as to be harmonious in appearance with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and that such use will not change the essential character of the same area.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 4, will not be hazardous or disturbing to existing or future neighboring uses.
It will not be.
Will not, so that
Yes.
would be a yes.
Yes.
Okay. 5, will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, police and fire protection, drainage structures, refuse disposal, water and sewer, and schools. Or that the persons or agencies responsible for the establishment of the proposed use shall be able to provide adequately any such services.
Yes.
Yes.
That would be yes. 6, will not create excessive additional requirements at public cost for public facilities and services and will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community.
Yes.
That's again, yes, it will not. 7, will not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment, and conditions of operations that will be detrimental to any persons, property, or the general welfare, including but not limited to excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, odor, potential for explosion, and air or water pollution.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Number 7's a yes. 8, will have vehicular approaches to the property, which shall be so designated as to not interfere or not create an interference with traffic on surrounding public thoroughfares. Yes, it
Yes.
already has that actually. 9, will not result in destruction, loss, damage of a natural, scenic, or historic feature of major importance. Yes, it will not.
Yes.
It will not.
Okay, and that would be it, so all 9 findings of facts would be a yes. Any other comments on that or questions?
No.
No.
Now we can do a motion, thank you for that. I move to approve a conditional use permit pursuant to section 1215.08 of the Patasko Code for application CU-20-005 with the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the City of Patasko and Licking County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. 2, L2 landscaping shall be installed along the front of the property adjacent to Broad Street. 3, the fence along the east property line shall be repaired and maintained per the requirements of the code. 4, the dumpster shall be enclosed per the requirements of the Pataskola Code. 5, L2 landscaping shall be required along the western property line abutting 325 Broad Street. And 6, all vehicles on property to be parked in designated spots. So I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
And TJ, I have a second. And any other comments, questions, discussion? Hearing none. Lisa, from the new roll.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Ms. Rotobeck,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Howell.
Yes. So conditional use application has been approved. Staff will get back with you on anything else that has to happen, next steps. And good luck with the new business. We hope you do very well there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you certainly don't have to. Thank you so much. Okay, so that. Okay. So that concludes all of our new business. So if we can go to findings of fact. I move to approve the findings of fact as discussed for variance VA-20-006. And do we have a second on that?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Nope.
No.
None being, if we could have a roll, please.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac, Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Thank you. Second motion would be, we're not gonna, we did not do find of facts on BA 20-007, so that would be tabled. So I move to accept the finding of facts as discussed for variance application 20-008. Can I have a second on that?
Second.
We have a second. Any other discussion?
No.
Roll, please.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac,
Yes.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Howe.
Yes. And finally, I move to accept the findings of fact as discussed for conditional use application CU-20-005. Motion on the table. Can I have a second?
Second?
I have a second. And any discussion?
No.
Roll, please.
Ms. Rotovac,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Howe.
Yes. That concludes our findings of fact. Next item on the agenda is excuse of absence for Mr. Cook from the May 12th regular meeting.
So moved?
So move, I will second that. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No.
Can I have roll?
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Howe.
Yes. Thank you. Approval of minutes. Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from our May 12th meeting. They're online for a period of time now. And can I have a motion to accept them?
Move to accept.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No.
All right, roll please.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac.
Yes.
Okay, so minutes have been approved for the May 12th meeting. Other business, I have one item to bring up for the board. We, at this time, do not have a vice chair, and should anything happen that we need to have one, we should have somebody designated to fill in. That being said, I kind of open the floor for nominations. Do we have anyone that would, if that's the case, then I would nominate Josh Butler, to be the vice chair. He can fill in and, anytime that it's necessary. And hopefully we won't need it, but you just never know. So with that, that'd be, I would make a motion to accept him if I get a second.
Second?
We've got a second. And any discussion? Very good. May I have roll, please?
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Howe.
Yes. Congratulations, Josh. Thank you
Thanks,
very much
sorry.
for stepping up on that. I appreciate that. That being said, is there any other business for the board?
No, sir.
Then I would adjourn to, or make a motion to adjourn the meeting for, until next month, which would be Tuesday, July 14th.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No.
Roll, please.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Meeting's adjourned. Appreciate it, everyone.
We are done.
What happens if we don't excuse an absence? What? He gets kicked off?
You get
Firing
an
squad.
unexcused absence for the semester.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I really get at the school.
Obviously, we don't have an answer. Let's not test it.
Both
Welcome
my
back
kids,
anyhow.
they made
Glad
it
you're here.
through.
Thank you for.
Well, I'm sorry.
They made it through.
Oh, did
3.0 or better. That's
Oh,
why I
wow.
was, yes. So
Okay.
we went from 9 Fs to 3.0 or better.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty
Seven.
stressful.
Maybe old school.
Minutes.
Which button do I hit?
No, I think it was a mixture
Hit
of
the red
not
button?
being prepared for it.
Was that?
Hit the
And the
record button?
technology failing
no, it's
and
the stop
not being
button.
used
Those